welcome everybody to this panel or ronde tafel, round table at the Nederlandse Dansdagen. I will have a short introduction and then I give the microphone. No, I give the voices to Guido. I hope you really enjoyed Dubbelspoor. It's a very special occasion in the terms of theater and dance, because who is actually performing their piece from the 80s, 40s years later? It's very special. You will hear more about that in conversation between Guido and I'm the publisher of the Nieuwe Dansbibliotheek, invited by the Nieuwe Toneelbibliotheek. That's a long story I will not do here. But we have a lot of guests, and it's our creation to have these guests together. Not only Beppie Blankert and Caroline Dokter, whose performance you might have just seen, Dubbelspoor, but also Delphine Hesters is there. She is one of the, I think, the strongest pillar of dance heritage in Flanders, were it not that the socialist minister, you say minister, just cut the whole budget to some kind of weird chance operation. That's what you call political care, I guess. There's Leroy and Sarah who will be performing, and there's Laura Karreman and Adriana La Selva. They are two academics, but also researchers that will dive into archiving, which, as Guido says in his introduction to the little book that you are holding, because it's also the presentation of this book, Guido says in the introduction that as a scholar or researcher and teacher of dramaturgy, as a dramaturge even, which we are both, he would love to know what performing the archive means, and he has to conclude that it's very hard to put a single definition or a very clear definition. So when I wrote my introduction, I thought, you always as a dramaturge, you start trying to define it again and again, and then thanks to you, I now know that I don't have to really define. But we will have examples of performing the archive, but I also wanted to quote Tilda Swinton, because the director of the Mondrian Fund, which is for visual arts, just posted on Facebook, a clip from, he was clearly sitting first row when Tilda Swinton opened at I Museum her enormous, exhibition. And she said, when she was invited to do a retrospective by the head of the museum, she was appalled. She said, no way, it sounds like I'm dead already. And I thought, that's such a nice, interesting perspective. In the book, Beppie, being interviewed together with Caroline by Guido, says when she's asking for funding for this project, the fourth version of a piece initially made in '86, there comes this old woman, or actually bejaarde, so elderly woman or old woman with an old piece. Why would we, for God's sake, invest in this? And I don't want to gear everything to death or older bodies, but there's something about the archive that it's always associated with beyond the end or something that is past, and where actually when you go into it, when you really enjoy it, I really enjoy it, but there's so much life in the archive. So I hope you enjoy the presentations, and then afterwards we will have a discussion, because also Sarah Wookie, sorry to say, came all the way from England to be here. Thank you very much, dear, for coming. There's a lot of interest in the archive from many perspectives, and I hope for tonight, or for this afternoon, sorry, it's a bit dark. In this coffin that is called the theater, I hope you enjoy the examples. Up to you, Guido.
Thank you for kicking us off. So yeah, this is the round table performing the archive. My name is Guido. This is Francine. Most of you probably already know us, but we have the luxury, the joy to have this performing the archive round table actually every year. We are in a position to, because of that, deepen and broaden the conversation every time and not have to reinvent the wheel. And for me, that's also one of the reasons why archives can be so important, because we can build onto work, and through the conversations with Beppie and Caroline, I also have seen how valuable it can be and how enriching it can be to continue working on already done work. So first of all, we have a few words of thanks to be able to do this here. We're very thankful for the Dutch Dance Days, of course, the festival of which we are a part, and that provides us a platform to have these conversations about the dance archives in the Netherlands. So thank you very much for that. There's thanks for Podiumkunst.net for facilitating this this roundtable to really provide a space to work on the archives and make sure that archives in performing arts are well preserved into the future and made accessible. And lastly, of course, a lot of thanks to the Dutch, the Nederlandse Dansbibliotheek, the Dutch Dance Library, for their continuing reflection on the relevance, importance, and value of dance archives in the Netherlands. So a brief check, who do we have here with us right now? Which one of you all saw the performance just before? Okay, most of you, that's very good. We might tap into that later. Which one of you are lovers of dance? Everyone. Would be really interesting if you're here and you're not, then welcome, welcome in this world of dance. Who works within the dance field? Most of you, but not everyone. And who works in the archive sector? Yeah, those are the remaining ones, and I see some doublings. Wonderful, wonderful. So a brief practical thing. You've all found leaflets with a red coin on top of it. This red coin is a consumption coin. You can use it for a drink after this event. And as you may have seen, we have a microphone, we have a video camera. We're recording this session so we can preserve and continue on this conversation throughout time. So be noted of that if you prefer to be out of sight, then please let us know. So about today, the subtitle is, as we can see here, what the body does and how do we preserve that. So we're tapping into this year much more into the immaterial side of dance legacies and dance archives. And from an embodied perspective, because dance is not only, as this book also shows, a large part is archival material, which are reviews, writings, sketches, notes, and whatever. But there's, of course, a large part of dance practice that is in the immaterial, in the body, in the happening, in the moment. So what do we do with that? And what do we want to be doing with that? And then the embodied perspective not only of the makers and the performers, but also the embodied experience of the spectators, of which maybe dubbelspoor is a very unique and important example. So we'll be delving into that through three perspectives. So first, I will go into conversation with Beppie and Caroline about the role of the body as archive in recreating dubbelspoor, and we'll also touch upon the conversations that we had that compiled to this book. After that, we'll have the chance to experience Sightless Seeing number 5, Black Box, by Sarah van Lamsweerde and Leroy de Böck, which is a proposition to provide access to immaterial heritage. And lastly, we'll listen to a conversation between Laura Karreman and Adriana La Selva about using XR-technologies for transmission of embodied practices. And after that, we'll have these open conversations with you in the audience. So I think without further ado, I would like to invite Beppie and Caroline to join me.
Gewoon een microfoon, dames.
And before we fully get comfortable, there's of course the moment supreme. I would like to offer these booklets to you and thank you very much for the wonderful conversations that we've had throughout this half year, and I hope you enjoy looking back on it. So there it is. What does it do to have it in your hands? History.
Memories. No, it's nice to have this because I've never been able to talk about the work so deeply and so profound for such a long time with somebody, we have our discussions. You have discussions with people that you work with, but this was different. So I'm very happy to have this. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. And can you, so how is it different then? I mean, everyone maybe because the rest of the team is sort of like in it, so they know what they're working towards. And I had not seen your performance beforehand, so I really discovered dubbelspoor before I've seen it through these conversations with you.
Yeah, because your questions were totally different, of course, for the reason that you had not seen the show. And that sort of woke us up in a different way.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that I could do that for you. And can you, so how is it, what is it like to dance dubbelspoor, double track again?
For me?
Yeah?
Well,
How does it feel?
it feels familiar on one side, and it's been a piece that's been very near to my heart, especially because we've done all these versions of it. The first version was the two of us. Second version was with John and Chris. Third version was with John and Hillary. And so it gave me the chance to discover what the piece actually was about. And now going back to it ourselves, it gives so much more. Yeah, somehow the work has grown over the years without me doing anything about it except making the new versions. But it has grown in a way that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, yeah. We'll come back to the how it has grown, because as a choreographer you've seen all four of them, but you, Caroline, as a performer, how is it for you to come back? Because you have a bit more of a distance, perhaps.
Much more, but it was also, for me, was dubbelspoor very special. It was the first time I worked with Beppie, and the traveling and the searching on that moment was, yeah, well, it was also a big love. Dubbelspoor was, I have also at home a lot of paintings of dubbelspoor, and so it means something for me, dubbelspoor. So it was interesting when Beppie asked me to do it again, that the first thing, I'm a little bit lazy, so I like to be.
So maybe not.
Took some
But
convincing.
yeah, no, yeah, okay. But what for me is interesting, that my body, I think that I know more than in the time we did it, in another way, and that's interesting. So when you speak about archiving, it is the wrong word. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think my body knows things I didn't know on the moment we did it in the 80s, and that's very interesting.
Yeah.
And that's also beautiful, and I feel more freedom and more searching in another way. So that's. Yeah, I like to do it, and I also have sometimes, okay, we do it.
Yeah.
But I like to watch, that's also interesting. I always have liked then, and now again, watching Beppie.
Yeah.
And that's inspiring me, that's why I can do it. That's also interesting. I had it in that moment also the years before, but I have it still. So I like to watch her, and that's inspiring me how to move and what the movements said.
Yeah.
And I had it then also, but I was much more younger. And now I think, okay.
For me also, in the 80s, the piece was about presteren.
Performing, like making a
Making
achievement.
Achievement.
Yeah, achievement.
You want
much more than it is now. Now it was a very strong motivation from within that I really wanted to be on stage again, and with this piece, no matter what people would think.
Yeah.
Much more than, I mean, in the 80s it was important what people would think.
Mm-hmm.
Much more than now.
And why was because it was the 80s, or because it was at a different stage in your life as well?
It was in a different stage in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were young, and you had to, to be there. You had to be somebody. And now I know I'm not important anymore because young people now do different things and they are important now, I think.
Well, so that's possibly, well, maybe we'll come back to that. But because what I would like to delve into a bit more is this whole, through the conversation that we had, it became clearer and clearer for me that how your bodies as archives and the memory plays a role in making this work again, because it's not a reenactment. You are really making it anew.
Yes.
So what does the embodied memory play, what role does it play in making anew?
Well, for one, 40 years of age. We're 40 years older now than we were then. And also, you know so much more now.
Mm-hmm.
And the body remembers, it's not the body that remembered it, it's the feeling and the sense and the emotion that comes with the piece, because the text is quite present in the work. And
quite evocative. There's a certain type of
So-
emotion
so
in text.
That feeling from the text is what you take with you. But it changed a lot because we were much more serious 40 years ago. It's much more it's lighter now.
Yeah.
Because now I see that Beckett has a light side also. It's not all dark.
Yeah, yeah. What the words mean change for you over time. And because we also talked about, maybe you could say a bit about that, Caroline, about how coming back to the music is also something that you really respond to, and from there you rediscover the piece. Do I summarize it correctly, or how is it for you to respond to the music?
And you mean instead of how it was before, or?
Yeah, to be going back to January this year, the first rehearsals. How was it to hear the music again?
Familiar, and also, I know Louis a lot. His music I heard a lot, so that's when you hear it for the first time again. When I heard doubles, I haven't. It was like coming home for. Yeah, I can say that. Like coming home, and also that you feel like, oh yeah. And also because of when you hear the music, you feel directly the essence of the movement again. That's also. I am really a dancer. With music. I need music to dance. There are dancers, they don't have that, but I really need music to dance and to inspire me. So when I heard it again, then it was there again. And also because with Beppie, it's really nice to work on the musicality of it and the precisely of it and the accents. So that was... and I had the feeling that we did it more than we did it the years before. We were much more exact. My English is not so good, so exact and precise in the rhythm. So that we did it more now than then. So I think I hear more nuances and precise changing in the music. I hear it better now than then.
Yeah, maybe that's also that growth that we touched from because you've grown and your way of listening to the music has grown, and as performers and as choreographers.
So the shadows in the music, and and also the feeling of what it does with the Beckett text, because that's also a shadow, and it comes back. There's a repeating in, and in the movement is a repeating. I think I'm much aware now about it, about the construction, than in that time. In that time I was wild, and I wanted to say something to Beppie, and you have to do it like this. Yeah. So, but now I'm more focused and more in the subtle.
Subtlety.
Subtlety.
Yeah. Because also there's quite a distance between you. and
Yeah.
you're still dancing together. And can you tell a bit more also what we talked about in the book, like how did you try that out in the early time? How is it to discover this connection between you two again?
It's a disembodied, it is the space, but when you make it, we danced a lot together. So it's something strange, I think. When you dance together, you can't feel the other body without being aware. So when I do a lot with Beppie and I come at home and I do it in my head or I do it in the kitchen, I can feel the other next to me. I think everybody knows that. That you can feel the other. So when you do it more, you can train it, I think. You can train that you can be blind or that you can feel the other really next to you when he's not there. And that we trained. And when you are a lot in the studio together, it comes.
When we made the piece,
with a mirror.
we didn't have a mirror yet. So I needed somebody to be me next to her because of the mirror.
Yeah.
So we had a
So you could see what
Yeah,
it does
so I
as a
had
choreographer.
somebody to double me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a third performer.
There was a third performer in the first. In the
Yes.
first, to
Yeah.
make it, but the feeling and to get it really, the sensitivity, that's another thing.
Yeah, because a lot of the performance is also about this immateriality, about the other being there or not being there, and leaving it very open what the other is. But it is there's an intimacy, there's a connection that is really powerful between the two, and I think that speaks very much about the career and relationship that you've built up together.
We are friends.
Yeah, you can tell. You can tell. Yeah. Is there, looking back at the book and the conversations that we had, is there one thing that you would like to lift out to as a teaser for the audience?
No, for me, what was the initial thing that I had, the initial idea that I had making Dubbelspoor was to make a difference between seeing and hearing. So, in other words, the audience sees the show in front of them, but they hear the sound behind them. And that was the original trigger. And then I got bored because, it's just one person and a mirror and not interesting. So that's when the mirror became a see-through mirror, and she became the other half, the other self, the other person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm very happy that in the book we were allowed to include 2 articles that were written about your piece from Professor Dr. Maaike Bleeker, where she wrote about this whole spatial setup and how that is an example of embodied perception for the spectator, but also by Professor Rubich, who wrote about the virtual performer. Her whole career was about the virtual performer, and this is one of the earlier works that inspired her to do that. Yeah. And for you, Caroline, is there something that you would like to lift out that you're like, this is very nice for me?
I like to, that's strange, but I like to be there in the dark in the first 20 minutes. And then to feel what happens there and to be with Beppie. And I like it. I like to do it, maybe, but it's a nice thing to do. You can sleep, but I'm always, I'm very aware, and then she comes near. I'm with her. In that 20 minutes, I come to her, and that's for me. Yeah, I like that. So I get away from myself in the first 20 minutes. So when I come up, I'm really a part of her, and that's interesting.
There's one more thing I would like to say.
Yes.
For me, it has been very important to make the other 2 versions before coming back to this version.
Yeah.
Working with John and the other 2 dancers gave me so much information about the work, not being in it myself, but making it for somebody else, and creating it with them. That is why the need to come back to it ourselves became very big.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. We need to leave it here.
Yeah.
But thanks so much. Give me a round of applause. We have a small change of scenery. I would like to ask the people on the first row to move their chairs to the side so we create space for Sightless Seeing. So the 3 chairs over here can go behind the black chair over here. The black chairs need to go to the sides, and the red chairs can also go to the sides or to the side over here. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Leroy, and this is Sarah. And together we made the performance Sightless Seeing number 5 Black Box. And today we will show you a short version of it. On the outskirts of Amsterdam, between a hospital, a parking garage, and a motorway junction, stands an anonymous concrete building that holds the collection of the former Dutch Theatre Institute, also known as TIN. I'm an actor, and I spent some time there in the beginning of 2020 to discover how this theatre collection was living its life far away from the spotlights. When we finally got permission for small groups of audience to join me on a tour inside the depot and catch a glimpse of its contents, our world changed radically, as you might remember, because of COVID. This made the theatre collection even more inaccessible. We decided to build a scale model of it to be able to perform this tour anywhere. Thanks to these tools, I stay in contact with the space and the stories inside. So for instance, here we are in the main corridor of the depot. Let's see, the shelves have no doors. All kinds of objects lie in the open. And many different types collide here. There are more than 190,000 items stored in this theatre depot. Paper documents, and audiovisual materials. Costumes. And props. But also stage elements from dance or theatre pieces. And then we have objects that we couldn't quite classify, or could be all of these at the same time. Such as, well, this one. Oops. Is it a costume? A prop? Feels empty. Liquid. Was it worn by an actor? like a naked costume. Could I wear it? Is there someone who would like to try it on? So this so-called black box is tactile, made of different materials, and each material corresponds to a theater story from the collection. For instance, this see-through piece, it takes me back to 1995. I am standing off stage in Theater Corso. Tonight is our premiere. This is my debut as a professional dancer. I love my costume. Golden trousers and a see-through top. On stage, two of my fellow dancers are in the middle of an energetic movement sequence. I can feel the heat of a spotlight on my left shoulder. And I can see the audience. I can see the audience and I even recognize some people. Yiri Kilian is one of them. My heart beats even faster. Then I see my colleague Eddie across the stage. And he just missed his cue. So he is nervous too. Instead of panicking, I throw myself onto the stage to save the moment. I'm living my dream, but my mind is clearer than ever. This is woolen memory. But wait, I'm in excellent theater company with all of you. I'm sure you have some stories as well. Would you like to give it a try? To share a theater story, for instance? Let's see. Any stories related to foam? Any soundproof stories? Don't be shy. No one. Okay, well, yeah. Any cardboard memories? Someone here?
Yeah.
What, please?
Yeah, I have a cardboard memory of a performance by Beppie Blankert, where all the audience members were on stage, and there were all kinds of carton boxes on stage. And near the end of the performance, we were building a wall of these cardboard boxes in a circle. So the performance ended with all of the audience being inside a circle of cardboard boxes that were about six cardboard boxes, and then we had to find a way out.
Thank you. Do we have some more? Let's see. Yeah. What is this? This is tulle, right? From tutu that they use for ballet. To make tutus. Any ballet memories? Let's take one then.
Yes. When I was 16, we did a performance with our amateur ballet class. We were dressed in white tutus and would come out of a picture frame. But the leotards of the tutus were totally see-through, and we were not allowed to wear a bra. And we were 16, so that's my tutu memory. But I did wear a tutu on stage, so okay.
Talk about the body as an archive.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing these stories with us. Let's go back to the depot and take one more short walk, shall we? So 7 steps forward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, turn left. 1, 2, 3, 4 more steps. Turn right. 1, 2. Here. So in this large room, we have a lot of boxes, but still have quite a lot of space. So I would like to propose something for the collection. To deposit something. Not a physical object, but the memory of a dancer. It's 1989. My name is Jan Hessels. I'm 27 years old, and I'm teaching at the Amsterdam Dance Academy. The modern dance scene is booming. I'm small, dark, and very quick. Merce Cunningham, Michael Clark, and the Sex Pistols are my heroes. I always wear black. Before leaving for work, I spray my clothes with a dash of aftershave. I like how the scent lingers behind me when I jump around. My students, they are still a bit green and provincial, so I'd like to shake them up a bit. For instance, I show them a dance sequence, a difficult one, and when the class finally got it, I say, okay, and now the same sequence backwards. 3, 2, 1, and go. Dancing backwards is like counting down. Turning back the time. I've been diagnosed with AIDS. I am counting the days. If you are not sure how to come back to the present, don't worry and place your fingers on your wrist. You can join me, place your fingers on your wrist. Find your pulse. Raise your hands high above your head. Now take a deep breath. Feel your pulse. And count. 1, 2, 3. Let go. We are back in 2025. Thank you for spending some time with us and taking in some of the stories deposited in here. We've arrived here, and the exit of the depot is here on the left. This is the end of this short tour, and I hope to see you in another time.
To conclude this short presentation, I would like to share with you a small publication that we made in the frame of this project, because we were busy with how to make archives and art in general more accessible with the other senses, not just with your sight. So we made a scented booklet. We were inspired by something called papier d'Arménie. It's kind of a quite old-fashioned thing where you put strips of paper in between your clothes, to make them smell nice. But we made a papier d'archives. And we tried to recreate the scent of Jan Hessel's, that we had some movements just recreated here shortly. There are little strips of paper that you can tear off. You can also burn them in your house to get a different kind of scent. And I want to just pass it around and start with Nanda Lenders, who's here. Yeah. Who danced with Jan Hessel's. So I'm really happy you're here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Okay, I think we're ready for the next part. So I would like to invite Adriana La Selva and Laura Karreman. I give a brief introduction to who you are. Adriana La Selva is a theater maker, performer, networker and researcher. In 2025, she wrapped up her PhD, in which she's researching how embodied practices can be transmitted with the use of virtual media and a dramaturgical approach to archival practice. Along with Marije Nie, she founded the Cross-Pollination, which is an international network of performers and researchers that focuses on exchange of practices, new forms of knowledge production, and understanding of collaboration. So thank you very much for sharing your insights on this. It's an incredibly curious topic. And next to her is Laura Karreman. Laura Karreman is, how do you say universitair docent in English?
Associate professor.
Associate professor of the Utrecht University, where she teaches in a master contemporary theater, dance and dramaturgy, the research master media art and performance studies, and the bachelor media and culture studies. She's also a program coordinator of the research media art and performance studies. And Laura is researching the role of embodied knowledge in the transmission of dance, the influence of digitalization on performance archives, and questions or matters on what dance and performance knowledge actually contains or means. And she is currently, as a researcher, connected to the NWA project Dramaturgy for Devices. And later this year, she will be publishing a new book alongside Liesbeth Groot-Nibbelink, which is about research methods called Performance Research Methods. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Yay. Thank you very much, Guido and Francine, for hosting us. We really appreciate it. To talk about both of our research in 15 minutes is quite a challenge, of course. But we thought we would structure the time that we do have with 4 questions. The first being, what is motion capture? What is mocap? So it can also be abbreviated. The second one, what have we done with motion capture? Am I turning things around already?
First one is about the switching.
Yeah, but that's okay, yeah. And the third one, is what is the trouble with motion capture? And the fourth and last one is, there's a lot of trouble there. But what can we actually do with motion capture? But first of all, before we get into these 4 questions, we'll start with an opening question. And that relates to the title of this session that you saw in the program that was called Sweating Archives, Zwetende Archieven. And this refers to the title of the PhD dissertation by Adriana, haar promotieonderzoek, that was called Sweating the Archive. So Adriana, I thought maybe you can briefly kick off with saying something about what does that mean, sweating the archive, talking about technologies, but titling your dissertation with sweat.
With sweat, because I think that there's a nice dialogue with the idea of performing the archive, and the sweating the archive for me comes, it's even more embodied in a certain way, because we are not just talking about what the final results of a piece, of a choreography is, but also what comes behind, all the sweat that comes behind creating a final piece of work. And in this research project that I started, the idea was really to look into that, the practices, the creative practices towards a final work, a choreography or a theater piece, and so on. So what does it mean, an archive that you can literally sweat with? And it was also a little bit inspired by 2 theories that I admire very much, Sara Ahmed and Laura de Böck, Audre Lorde, that they speak about sweaty concepts and what does it mean to sweat a concept and go and bring it back to your body and bring it back to an understanding that is actually starting from action. So that was the 2 inspirations to start to think of what a sweating archive would be and how can we actually sweat with it towards a creation. Does that make sense?
To me it
Yeah.
does. I hope it does to the audience as well.
I hope.
Something first maybe about what is mocap, or what have we done with mocap? We can
Maybe
start
what
off
is
the first
mocap?
slide.
Yeah,
We can
maybe
start
it's
the
what
first
is mocap.
slide. Yes.
This is an invitation to you. We have a few slides over here. We're not going to be showing, it's not a PowerPoint presentation, but it's more of a dialogue between what we're going to be talking about and some images that I can actually give you an idea of what is mocap, what can be done with that, and what are the troubles behind it as well. So maybe we can start.
Putting on the first slide. And then I'll just start saying something, and then maybe you
Yes.
can start adding
Yes.
things. There are many different types of motion capture, but the type that Adriana and I both looked at in our books that have become a little bit like a double track in themselves, also because we also both conducted our research at Ghent University.
Yes.
So that also united us in a way. So motion capture, very concisely, is the tracking of markers, body markers that you see here put on like a tight-fitting suit. And these markers are reflective markers. And what they reflect is infrared light that's coming from lights hanging in a grid along a stage. The infrared light is reflected by the markers, and there are sensors there that then measure that motion data. And the data that comes out of that, you can really imagine as like a 3-column Excel file with an XYZ position. But then a very, very long Excel file, because what it measures is very precise. It measures the 3-dimensional trajectory of these markers through space in sub-millimeter detail. Adriana, maybe you, and then subsequently, of course, okay, you have these data, but then this motion data can be visualized in all kinds of different ways. The most basic way that you see here is what we call a point cloud. That is like a direct translation of the markers into a field. But there are other types of visualizations that can be made. But also these data can be mapped on avatars. So this is used in the film and game industries a lot, where motion data is used to animate all kinds of characters. And it's even, and to map it on robotic movement, for instance. But you can also create objects out of these motion data that actually become tangible. Adriana, what am I forgetting here?
I think if you have any questions, shoot, but I think
Yeah.
it's very precise in
Yeah.
explaining. This video will show you exactly what she's explaining over here, this process of translation from that little balls into a sticky figure that becomes a very ugly avatar event, normally in these design softwares, and eventually a process of translation and imagination of what you can do with that.
One thing to be added maybe is it measures, these markers are put around joints, so they can measure joint movements. So you would have like 3 different markers positioned around certain joints. And then from there, you come to sort of extrapolation of movement.
Yeah.
Maybe we say something briefly about what we have done with mocap, because it's something
that
different.
goes into the why mocap. Would you like to start, Laura? Why mocap?
Well, maybe not immediately why yet, but just to give you an idea, because we've done different things. You have really done very hands-on stuff with mocap a lot. And what I did was looking at, I studied different mocap practices that were around in the dance field. And I studied all kinds of examples where mocap was used as a form of dance notation, transmission, archive, but also as a creative tool. And often all kinds of these different functions that mocap can have in practice, they also always tend to overlap somehow. One of the pioneers really in thinking of dance and computation was Merce Cunningham, and he always said, more than the museum, I like the actuality. And that, I think, relates to what Guido and Francine opened with as well, that archives have not, the word archive is not that often used actually by dance practitioners, because they always want to move with the archive. And they want to keep it in movement somehow. So it's always alive, but it's about finding different forms for dance to exist out of the dance or become alive also out of the dance. So I looked, so I mapped that field, and then I also tried to retrace why do we actually do that? Because it's a very strange thing to put dancers in a setting with markers. So I did this media archaeological research where I also traced back to, for instance, early experiments in photography at the end of the 19th century, and the ideas of movement that came out of that we have this fantasy that we want to capture ideas of movement, that we kind of make it graspable and something that we can understand or analyze or know more about. So we want to picture the invisible somehow. We want to find ways of doing that. So the fantasy that's behind motion capture is not something that only emerged at the end of the 19th century when these practices emerged. That fantasy, or what I call the motion capture imaginary, stretches back in all kinds of experiments that we have been doing with technology for a long time. So how to understand dance and dance knowledge in a different way through motion capture became really a question that I tried to start answering in my research project.
Yeah, which is, of course, somehow close to what in my research I have done. My research was done a little bit after Laura's research. That means that the university then had a proper mocap studio, which we could actually work much more efficiently with it. And I started to work. I come somehow a bit more from the theater disciplines, which sounds a bit old nowadays to speak about theater, because but my interest was really on working with techniques, practices that come before the performance. And often in dance or in theater, some of them can be very precise, which was very helpful to work in this setup of the mocap studio. And so what I have been working with during this project was to understand the history of a theater company that is called Odin Teatret, that is based in Denmark and has now already 60 years of existence. 61 apparently last week. And because I've been very close to them, there was a bit of an affective relation, because this is also a bit old to say, but they were my masters. This is the people that I learned everything that I know in terms of being an actor, a performer. And at some point I thought that this would be something really nice to give back to them, a way of preserving their ways of transmitting an embodied knowledge that eventually, because they are all in their 80s right now, it's not going to be here anymore. So this was also a bit of a push for me to understand, okay, how can we remain with these genealogies of practices, and how can they be redistributed and transformed along the way in other bodies and in across other media as well. So we brought all these practitioners to the studio, and in a way, what I realized was that the practicing of archiving through mocap becomes a creative practice on its own, which is very beautiful to think that then an archive, in a sense, is also a creative practice. It's a way of dialoguing with what is already in there, and also transforming radically what something is. For instance, this exercise that you saw is called the wing dance. And by doing it and by imagining what it could be together with them beyond the visible body that you have in front of you, you start to create another house for these practices to live and to be transformed. Most important, I think that there's something very important in that, to interact with and be transformed, because the archive and this idea of what a living archive is meant to move with the times, is meant to move with other bodies, with bodies that have different situatedness, different cultural backgrounds, different ableness. So how these exercises can be transformed and sweated through other bodies. And then maybe just, shall we go on the, the trouble.
Continue with the trouble, right?
With the
yes.
trouble.
Yeah.
Because then, okay, super beautiful, let's have this beautiful, which is happening very often nowadays, especially in academia, where people are thinking we cannot miss the train of technology. Let's everybody build a studio, let's everybody have these new technologies, and then we have no idea what to do with them. This is one problem. So there is, I feel, a sense of a new form of new disciplines coming along, which are at their heart interdisciplinary, because it's not that a performer can do that alone, it's not that a computer person can do that alone. We really need to talk, which I think is already something beautiful. And then Roberta, for instance, the woman that you saw in the first video, appeared there, and she said, we started to break down her exercises, and she put these clothes on, and she was like, but Adriana, how are you going to capture 50 years that I've been training with these stupid little bows that you see on the screen? How are you going to do that? And then the most beautiful question that I will throw back to Laura, what about the eyes? I trained 50 years to move my eyes in this way, and I went to different dance traditions all over the world, and now there's only little bows there dancing on the stage. You cannot see anything. What are people going to do? What are they going to learn with that?
So of course that is like I think there are two groups roughly. People in the dance field who are very curious and enthusiastic to explore the potential of these technologies. And then there are a lot of skeptics that are saying, okay, indeed, if you're just recording the trajectory of the markers, what can you say about the body that's behind it, about the body that's breathing and sweating and the muscle mass, and of course all of that is very important for dance performance as well. So it becomes a question of translation.
Yeah.
And I think that of course, with the introduction of video, became extremely important for dance transmission practices as well, because it has the ease of recording. And mocap doesn't have the ease of recording, because you record, but then you have to start figuring out, but what do we do with these data? Because in the data itself, there's this semantic blindness of the data. You have to make the motion data speak in order to get something from that. So you have to start thinking with the technology. And in the thinking with the technology implies also an interdisciplinary conversation. And of course you hear then, like you need to have a setting like that, you have hardware, you have to be able to work with a lot of experts. So of course this is also like a very privileged way to be able to experiment with technology in this way. It's very expensive and it's certainly not accessible to everyone. But in this translation process, there are opportunities there, of course. And motion capture is never really used by anyone to make the dance transmission process easier or more effective, or like people who work with motion capture also are curious about what happens in that process of translation, and they want to find out how to communicate in different ways about the knowledge that's present in the dance.
Yeah.
Maybe push it here.
Well, I will show some very humble translations that we went through.
And I guess that also makes us go to question 4, right?
Yes.
Guido, how are we doing with time?
About time to wrap up.
Yeah, I expected that.
So I'll just show the last one because I think it's the most beautiful one then. But in a way, the heart of this, I think, is that we are looking for new practices that also, politically, I feel that it speak to a call for interactivity and dialogue between disciplines. And for me, I feel that this was the most beautiful part of working with that, is that you have to have dialogue and a team of people trying different things to understand what Beppie beautifully said in the text from Beckett, that is like ways of working as if I was thinking with my breath. So I have the feeling that these technologies can actually support ways of thinking with the feet, with our sweat, with our breath, in different ways, not as reproducing knowledge, but creating new bodies of knowledge departing from something. So in this way, also quoting you, we are not inventing the wheel over and over again, but we are always responding to something that is in there, which creates a different ethos for these practices as well.
Yeah, and then maybe as I wrap up, so this is, I think it's important that this is a political gesture as well. By moving dance knowledge into other media, there are also other people who are able to relate to that. Yeah. So it's also a self-visualization strategy and a legitimization of that there is knowledge in dance. Like dance is if you look at history, it's a very recent academic discipline. And that's because it's only recently that's become more attention for embodied knowledge and how to articulate that. And I think that's actually what I love most about mocap, that to do that thing of trying to make motion data speak, what you then have to ask dancers is to articulate knowledge that otherwise they wouldn't say out loud. Yes. And through that also new aspects and dimensions of dance knowledge emerge.
Brava.
Okay.
Wonderful, thank you. Thank you. I think you can remain seated because I'm asking also Sarah and Leroy to join us sitting over here. I will be going back and forth with the microphone if you have any questions, so we can record it for, again, the archive, so we can keep working on it. And I will briefly give the microphone to Francine, so you can maybe introduce Delphine?
We invited Delphine to somehow help us do this 15 minutes. It's really maybe a bit too much. I saw you write a lot. So maybe we just go around, and if you want to add something to Delphine, it's maybe you keep listening, or you want to open up the discussion right now. I have a very clear question right away after this presentation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you, everybody, for your attention. My first question, directly to react to Laura and Adriana, is when you just concluded, you made this distinction between the process of translating by actually putting a digital system in place that has a tradition, that comes with certain faculties and certain specialism, combined with a dance world that has its traditions. And then you have data, and you wondered what you can do with them. And I was wondering, the one practice is like a not only interdisciplinary, but also intergenerational. I mean, people work with Cunningham still or not anymore. You have the gaming industry. Who do you bring together? That's a very embodied practice, actually, about, well, embodiment, disembodiment, embodiment, disembodiment. Where on the other hand, when you have an output and you publish, that's where you prove or legitimize the. And I never realized until you were sitting here that those are actually two ways of doing knowledge transfer, where actually this small group to me is just as important as when we would have a gathering of 300 or a readership of thousands, because it's in this intimacy. I just realized how important this intimacy is of the translation process, and the first curiosity about method, which always comes with the archive, because you somehow have to find out what to do, how. So the discussion is like, but I'm not sure whether it's always recognized as a very important moment. Even, are you recognizing that this interdisciplinary, I mean, who said, Beppie said it, you know, you Guido, asking questions to her made her reconsider her work, because she didn't expect those questions. So somehow I wondered whether that's, for me it was important to hear these two.
Would you like to respond to that, about this dialogical character of engaging with archive?
Part of the research I did, it's a bit complicated, but my research project started from the tentative idea that we could maybe work with motion capture and the legacy of Rosa's and Anna-Theresa de Keersmaker. That didn't quite work out, and it had to do also with the mocap setting at Ghent University. Long story. But what I did do was that I conducted extensive interviews with different generations of dancers that danced the performance Rosa's danst Rosa's. So for me, actually seeing Dubbelspoor was very interesting, because that emerged in a similar time as the early works of de Keersmaker that I know very well. At the time when I started my research, there was the project A Choreographer's Score that just came out. And this was a publication that probably some of you, more of you, are familiar with, a series of publications about Rosa's early works that were created through a dialogue between dance dramaturg Bojana Svejic and Anna-Theresa de Keersmaker. And this is a beautiful publication. It combines interviews on DVD with de Keersmaker, and also gives insights in the inner origin of the project and all the complicated choreography motion units that de Keersmaker uses. But when I started to interview the dancers and really ask them, like, how do you do that? How do you communicate the choreography of that performance from one dancer to the other? And I asked directly about, how they did that with their bodies and what happened in the rehearsal space. Then their use of the breath turned out to be extremely important in the way that they articulate movement qualities, but also in a very complicated alignment that they had to do in this choreography. So there were all kinds of ways that each one of them individually told me about how they used the breath. And the breath was completely absent from the whole Choreographer's Score project. So I was amazed by that. But I also realized that that's also just how you, like, with what questions and ideas in mind. And it is because I started asking questions, thinking, what if I would work with mocap, with these dancers? What would happen, and how would I go about interpreting these motion data? Then the breath and the timing, and that would be extremely important, where it wasn't really such a crucial factor in the Keersmakers motion units and movement segmentation. So maybe one example of what kind of different questions can highlight in different dimensions of what dance knowledge and performance knowledge can be.
Yeah, adding on to what you say, it's not only, I think, what kind of questions, but also whose knowledge is tapped into.
Absolutely.
Because the choreographer's score is the choreographer's score. And how the dance is written, but it's not how it's performed, and it's not how it's transmitted. So that's also an important layer of the archive, and it's adding those different perspectives of everyone involved through different questions.
Yeah, but it is indeed the performance knowledge that's very much comes to the fore when you work with the technology.
The motion itself,
because that's directly connected to making sense of how a body moves and why and how that is done.
But then, kind of skeptical almost, were you doing this project with Odin Theatret and this one, actually to have a result so that from this animation I could maybe understand something, let alone do something, or is it actually just to have the process of translation? I mean, you need somehow a mocap project to have the conversations. You know, I'm kind of like turning it around.
No.
As a dramaturg, if I watch this, I find your story about the process much more interesting than the animation, which doesn't say anything. That, I mean,
right.
But I was wondering, like,
You're right, but this is set as something that eventually, and people would be able to access through via virtual reality glasses. So we have these visualizations in 2D of something that is immersive. That of course gives a total different feeling for what it really is in terms of animation. And so these machines still are not that close to what we imagine ourselves yet, but it will come. Yes. Yes, and that is interactive, and that it responds back to your kinesthetic ways of moving with these bodies immersive in these immersive spaces. And very important, they were all built with the performers themselves. So understanding, okay, for you, if you need, because mostly we work in dance or theater practices with a lot of imagining. Okay, imagine that you are in the water, moving in the water. How does this changes the quality of your movement? So we went very closely asking them what is important in this exercise for people to imagine. This one that you show, it was really about how you distribute your energy on the space and how you leave the traces of this energy and direct this energy on the space. So Eben wanted us to find a way of showing this energy, the traces of this energy remaining on space, so you could play back with that, for instance.
Yeah, and that's, if I understand good, that is a dramaturgical approach to archival practices.
Yes.
Yes, and I'm a big fan of that.
Yes.
Sarah, Leroy, how is that for you? Because I believe that imagination is also a big part in your approach, sort of almost choreographical or directorial approach to archiving and making the immaterial tangible. Would you like to share something about that?
Yeah, thank you for having us. Is this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, what's your first name? Adriana. Like Adriana is saying, dance and theater is a lot about imagination. And when I started to work with Leroy, where I was busy trying to imagine what he was imagining. So it's almost like a next layer of working with the imagination. And so there's a lot of projection going on there, where in my creation process I was probably having speculations about what are you seeing when we speak about a certain thing. And I think that I tried to, this experience that I have, that I was probably projecting things on Leroy which are not true, I wanted to share also with an audience. So like that Leroy becomes in a way a medium through which you are actually expanding your own imagination. So that's one aspect that is not only in the black box piece, but that is in our other works that we make together. Leroy, do you want to say something about the imaginary?
Yeah, of course, and specifically towards the archive in which we were working, so the tin collection, which was not accessible, and I very last sight. I only see the difference between light and dark. That's all that I have in daily life. So no colors, no writing, if you like, in a normal perspective of writing way. And I couldn't touch anything. I wasn't allowed to. I could go in and they would tell me what you see, and I said, can I maybe this with gloves even? And said, no, you can't do that. So I was only able to walk past it and to listen to what they were telling me about it. And the period was a little bit strange because it was COVID period. I found the COVID period was coming up. And so yeah, it was through others that I had to pass something through to others, if you like. And that was supposed to be in a guided tour, so we would be with a group of people walking. And I was thinking that, and I had that consideration over the years, because we made this 4 or 5 years ago. And it's still going on right now, which was very unexpected. But I have to transmit things that I'm maybe not even aware of, and I haven't witnessed them in a proper way, because I wasn't allowed to do that. So I really had to trust the people that I was working with. They were very lovely, by the way. And yeah, there was a kind of a strange experience, but I hope that with this performance is what we can get through to you, and as well stimulate your own imagination in a certain way.
Yeah, and I think that also touches upon, like, I've had conversation with Francine earlier as well about the sort of like the perceived sacredness of the archives. Like, I mean, we need to not touch it, we can only work on it if we fully understand it. But what I've had through the conversation with Beppie, but also the way that you talk about with the performers and the directors, it's a lot about engaging with the material, and from there creating a new, reinterpreting, re-envisioning, imagining. You know, it's if we let go of this sacrality, we can actually do so much more with it, and have it a way to continue traditions, to discover new things. That's very much what I hope we can do more with the archives. Some responses from the audience, some questions, curiosities.
Hello. Thank you, first of all. And I just wanted maybe to drop one word that now comes to mind out of all the stories that have been told in the discussion bit, which also for me relates a lot to the idea of translation, which is a certain humility and an acceptance of failure. I like that a lot about translation, actually. Translators talk about this a lot, no? The task that a translator has, in a conventional translator now, who translates a book, is accepting that what you want to do is impossible. No? That's it, that's a fact. And that's also what I hear here, actually. And in the lecture performance that comes with what I hear now about the description of how the process went, it's even more so, no? It's a projection of something that is ungraspable, that now is projected but also given to us, and we are allowed to come closer in the measure in that what is possible. And in what you say now, Guido, no, this idea of the archive being something sacred or something that we can only use if we understand it, what do you mean? That's also impossible, no? There's also something very humbling but beautiful in accepting this impossibility. And then I go back, I'm sorry, but I go back to the interest of the analogic, no? And then I think, okay, I understand the value and the interest and certainly the new possibilities and the political gesture of mocap. But I also am drawn to think back to performances of makers that are really busy with practices of translation of things that were alive. I think of Alessandro Schiarroni as an example, who took back this popular dance in a little village in Italy where only 2 old people remained that danced it, and then brought it to today with 2 young dancers with a queer political perspective. And of course it's impossible to, but there's a transmission there. The eyes, no, even though with or without mocap, it's impossible. We will not do it the same way that women did it with 50 years of practice. And to accept that failure, I think, is also part of the game, and I find it humbling and beautiful in a way. That's my 5 cents.
Anyone would like to respond to that?
I think it's really important what you bring over here. 2 things, and one that when we start the conversation to prepare to this was the first question that Laura proposed, actually, that we're not even. But why would you mocap at all? Why would you? I mean, he has a political choice in there, or he has an ethical choice. So doing that with care and not going to this archive fever that we should archive everything it's already a very, very important point of departure for this. Also because the process of archiving, going back to what you were speaking, I think this is very important, is never neutral. Never neutral. So whatever kind of process of archiving that you will be doing from a very specific position. And that's why it's important to think of an archive as an open and not static document, because it's always going to have to be filled with other angles or re-angling of that same story. In a way, sometimes what I've been investigating with this is that this re-angling is very interesting through these new technologies, but just as much as an oral tradition as well. And I agree with you that this project, this translation project, it just came to mind the etymology of what translation is, translatio, that it means carrying across something. And it makes me think a little bit of carrying sand on your hands, that if you just walk with sand, you're going to leave a trace, and you're going to change the shape of what is, when you put the sand back, you're going to change the shape of this pile of sand, and you leave a trace of sand, and it's still sand, but it's going to be spread in a very different way. So there is indeed a process of being very humble about what you can carry and how you're going to carry and what is going to be left in the very end, the traces of it. Right?
Thank you. That's a very, very beautiful visual image to have to wrap up on. I would like to maybe briefly can I ask each one of you to give a short wish for the embodied archive? What do you wish the embodied archive of the future to be, to get, to receive, to grow?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, but I need to think about that. Show me the money.
To work faster.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for the Belgians, I wish for...
Good luck. You wish good luck.
Yeah. Lots of abundance. No, but I think, the subjectivity is very important. What you were also saying, that you change the shape as you interact with an archive. And I think accessibility is really key. Like, I think right now, where some of the collections are stored away in a depot, it's very difficult for anyone who is just curious to pick up, to see a video of a dance piece, to work further with that, or to enter that archive with a different set of senses. So to be able to maybe smell the sweat of a dancer in there. I think that's this, and I think maybe the chance with intangible heritage is the fact that it is not as sacred. So when we're working with objects, there is a lot of red tape and protocol, and a lot of gloves that are put on. But working with immaterial heritage, there is a little bit more space, because you have to be more creative with it.
Yeah, well, let's hope that it can be more open, indeed, for people, so that people can discover it more. Maybe that the digitalization of it can help as well, that people can, from their computers or tablets or whatever, maybe even from another side of the world, get inspired by it, and that would be nice, I think. And as well, obviously, that visitors can come there more often, because now you have to be how do you say it?
Accredited?
Yeah, you have to be accredited for it, and let's hope that it will be more open, and as well, like what Facebook was meant to be in the beginning, that people could come and everything, and then maybe the archive can be a space for artists all over the world to get inspired, no matter where you're from or whatever your background is.
Yeah. My very practical mind just said that it would work faster. But no. The process different. No, but sorry, this was just that was just a joke. But I will remain with Leroy's words as well. That actually this can be shared in a less sacred and accessible way for all kinds of audiences. That would be beautiful. Also because because we are dealing with biometric data, so sharing this entails as well a whole different kind of understanding of how to share that, and that's where I get myself struggling with how to share that. So finding the ways of being accessible would be wonderful.
Maybe more of an invitation than a wish somehow. Like for this audience, like I don't have to convince you to take dance seriously and to take embodied knowledge seriously, but maybe still as a reminder that it remains very important to name what bodies do and how you can give words to what bodies do. And I tend to, like Adriana as well, like we experience a lot of humility also because we tend to go into environments where we're doing interdisciplinary research. So we're working with people who come from very different knowledge expertise. And I'm also now doing an exchange where I bring dramaturgy students from Utrecht University to the VU Amsterdam, where there are 140 students in the MA Artificial Intelligence, and they're programming now robots. And I'm bringing my students in to give dramaturgical advice to the computer science students who are programming now robots. And the dramaturgy students are reminding or introducing all kinds of ideas about bodily expression, but also the expression of these robots that these computer science students just have never thought about. That's not their thought. Like they're like all of us also have like a limited time and effort and capacity to get in certain specializations. But what we can bring in is to keep talking about the body and what it does.
Okay, thank you all for sharing your practices, your thinking with us, and yeah, a round of applause, please. If I can ask you to take seat at the first seat again, then I will do the wrap up. Yes, so with that, with feeling the rush of the bus, I will keep it brief. Thank you so much for joining me during this roundtable on performing the archive. It's always so lovely to really delve into this. I mean, it's a nerdy topic that I love, of course, so thank you for indulging me and joining me in that journey. I would like to, if you are interested, the book Performing the Archive Dobbelspor can be bought at the table here if you would like. If you have to catch a shuttle to go to Maastricht, you can also order it at www.dansbibliotheek.nl. So de nieuwe dansbibliotheek.nl. So if you Google that, you will find that. So please have a look. Oh, this is the wrong one. So if you would like to work on archives yourself, because you've been very enthused from today, we encourage you to do so. Podiumkunst.net is an organization that, or an initiative that really supports that. They have also sort of a 7-step program, not to sort of also to guide you through it, but it also helps you to sort of determine where you are at right now. Because if you're totally beginner or you're actually quite advanced, there are always ways in which you can work on your archive more, and there are different levels of entry, so to speak. And they will also be organizing an archive trajectory, which is a few-month program where you get coupled with a coach who will really delve into your archive questions and practices and help you to build that up. It will start in spring, so have a look at their website, podiumkunst.net, to see how you can sign up. And that is, I think, everything that I have to say. Thank you so much, and I hope we can see you again next year.